And so the reason for telling what we know to be scientifically true about evolution in as many dialects as possible is to help persuade a diverse community of citizens about this. And they're coming from different points of view, and some of them would be completely convinced by the facts of the matter, but others recoil at the almost techie type of presentation of the facts, which is sometimes made. And that's the reason for poetry.
Yeah. I can see that, and it harks back to, I think, something that Michael Shermer was saying this morning about if it depends on what you're trying to achieve, and if what you're trying to achieve is to win over the hearts and minds of that large religious majority of the American population, then you've possibly got a point that you want to woo them in using the sort of language that they understand. So I think this is probably a matter of political tactics, and I can see that if one's political aim is to, say, win the battle over the teaching of evolution in schools, then the sort of tactical, but I mean, in your case, I'm not sure it's tactical. I mean, I think you really believe it, but I mean, there are other people who feel that we should be conciliatory, and I think Michael Shermer called it making nice. And I think that there is something to be said for that, and I'm genuinely uncertain about what I feel, because I can see the political benefits of winning that particular battle. I do see it as a battle rather than a war. I mean, I think it's a skirmish. And I mean, I'm actually much more interested in the deep truths about the universe. Is there, as a matter of fact, a supernatural intelligence in the universe? And that's the war that I'm really, really interested in. And to me, the evolution-creation battle is a skirmish. But I can easily be persuaded that political... it's a bit like saying, should you vote Democrat or vote Green or something? And you know, it's the lesser of two evils argument. But you don't even think it's evil. I mean,
well, no. I mean, I certainly don't think that any choice of imagery is evil if it's still accurate.
Well, but well, okay. I mean, I don't think it's accurate, but
Could I just interpolate something? This is actually a large pivotal point in many of the pieces that one has been reading recently. The whole notion of whether it makes sense to take the kind of position that you've taken in the God hypothesis or the make nice thing, whether in fact it does harm to the overall community to polarize them, whereas I think that what you would be saying is that you're not seeking to polarize them as such, you're just hoping that they'll actually explore the evidence with more intense focus.
Yeah, I mean, you have to open the door, I think, and I think that the choice of imagery and the choice of language is important to get the door open. And I would agree with you completely on the issue of pursuing a critical analysis of religion. I don't think that religious thought and religious doctrine should be any less subject to scrutiny. And but what I would say, where you may not agree, is that is a good case for actually reading the Bible and making sure that you can check up on people who claim that there is stuff in the Bible that isn't actually there.
Do any of the members of the audience have, I mean, do you have any issue? Francisco, do you want to say something on this?
You want me to do it from here? Yeah, okay. Well, I was not planning to say something, but you asked and named me, so I'll get up. I got up. Yeah, Francisco Ayala, University of California, Irvine. I was frankly very disappointed with both talks. I happened to be speaking to two good friends of many years. I think with Richard at least 24 years, since '82, when we were jointly celebrating the centenary of Darwin at Cambridge, and we were co-authors of a joint book with others as well. And I don't know whether it's earlier or later, where at least once and maybe twice I wrote blurbs for your books, commenting on how the books, how good they were, and your books are superb. John, I think I met her when she was a graduate student at Harvard, and I was a young assistant professor at Rockefeller University and came to give a seminar there, and then we went together for lunch. If my memory is correct, I think Ed Wilson had invited me to give that seminar. I was very proud, addressing the Department of Biology at Harvard when I was an assistant professor. And I have seen John more often than I have seen Richard. I think, John, you have presented a picture of science, which is a caricature. I mean, you bring up estrogen, and there are many other things which are wrong with conclusions or presumed conclusions of science, which are not very established, but there are lots of knowledge that I think is well established to the extent that science can establish things. We all accept that it may very well be that the basic assumptions of Newtonian mechanics are wrong, and Einstein proved that. But Newtonian mechanics works, and by and large is true knowledge. And I think in evolutionary biology, we both are practitioners of that, more the more ecological and behavioral side, more the genetic side. I think we have a lot of very good knowledge, very basic, and very useful to humankind. So at least the way your message came to me, I was disappointed. It seems to me that you were trying to put down science, and that doesn't go anywhere. I know how Richard feels about matters of religion. There are, I could agree with you in many things, which I will not make explicit here. But we cannot ignore religion, Richard. People, I mean, there are 6 billion people in the world, and if we think that we are going to persuade them to live a rational life based on scientific knowledge, we are not only dreaming. We just, I mean, it's such an illusion. It's like believing in the fairy good mother, you know, something like that. I mean, people need to find meaning and purpose in life, and they find meaning and purpose in religion. Now, the religion comes to them very much in the form of, you can call it indoctrination, it can be education in the family and otherwise in the schools, but this allows the billions of people in the world to live a life which makes sense. They can put up with the difficulties of life and with the hunger and disease and the like. And I certainly don't want to take that away from them. I, for one, would rather see that 7% of members of the Academy of Sciences, my colleagues, who still seem to express faith in ways that I would not share, but I certainly don't want to take religion away from the people. It's just it's much too valuable for them and for finding meaning out of the world.
I wouldn't if I were at somebody's deathbed and they had a deep religious faith. I wouldn't try to disabuse them. I don't necessarily want to take away what people have from religion. I was surprised that Steven Weinberg seemed to be almost expressing a kind of lament on his own behalf for the loss of religion. That really did surprise me. But I can see and, of course, acknowledge that a lot of people do get something from it. I was surprised he seemed to. I don't believe he does. And I wanted to disclaim any sympathy with that point of view. When I've been to, for example, religious and secular funerals, some people say, "Oh, well, what are you going to do? How are we going to bury our dead if we don't have religion?" I don't know what your experience is, but for me, by far the most moving funeral services I've ever been to have been wholly non-religious, where they consist of eulogies for the dead person, readings of poetry, the favorite poetry of the dead person, the favorite music of the dead person, people reminiscing about the dead person. When there are prayers as well, you just start looking at your watch and waiting for the next eulogy. My wife says that it's the prayers that are the only thing that keep her going, because if otherwise she'd be weeping all the time. She's so moved by the eulogies and the poetry and things like that. I think it's not a difficult task